Well, hello there. Welcome to Football-Oranje. It is time for a post-match reaction to Netherlands 3, Georgia 0. I'm Michael Statham, and joined by Mike Bell, the Football-Oranje founder, and we're going to be talking about the match. So if you're watching live, or if you're not watching live, do leave us a comment on YouTube as to what you thought of the game and what you think there's left to do before the Euros start. Only 7 days away at the recording. I can see lots of comments already coming in on YouTube, and there's lots to talk about, Mike, from the game. I thought it was quite a positive game. Get your thoughts in just a second. This is the last call that if you want a football manual for Euro 2020, come and get yourself one. Links in the description. So there's been plenty going on with football. If you haven't looked already, go to the website, look at all the articles that are going up there at the minute. And there's plenty also in terms of our podcast at the moment. Check those out when you've got some time. But first, the game itself. I think people are still quite critical of Frank de Boer and Evans, Mike, but I'm much happier. I was much more persuaded today by this 5-3-2 formation. It's really starting to click.
Okay, I'm not. I think if, again, Netherlands aren't playing Georgia in the Euros. This isn't who we're playing. They're playing Ukraine and Austria, and if they play like that against Ukraine and Austria, they're going to score. So there's not one part of me that thinks that going into the Euros next week that goes, this is a team that knows what they're doing. And this is a team that's going into the tournament with confidence that against Ukraine next week they're going to turn up and absolutely blow them off the park. There's not one part of me right now that has that confidence in de Boer's side doing that. I think that if they're going to get the win against Ukraine, it might be a bit of a struggle. And look at Netherlands, Georgia have 3 to 4 really big chances, and if it wasn't for Stekelenburg, Georgia would have taken the lead in the first few minutes. So then you're looking at another game like Scotland where it could have gone a bit wrong. I think the positives that came out today were Stekelenburg's the better goalkeeper, and Weghorst, his passion when he scored and the way he played in his link-up play with Memphis. Those were the two positives for me. Other than that, not much at all. I don't know why Darun's playing 90 minutes again. I don't know what he offers against teams like this. He doesn't offer protection to the defence because Georgia were still getting through with through balls against 5 men and 2 defensive midfielders. And when you have Koopmeiners on the bench and he doesn't even come on for at least 2 minutes, what's he doing in the squad? Why is he there? When you can see Darun's played 2 90-minute games heading into the tournament and offered absolutely nothing in both of them. What's de Boer seeing that none of us are? Yeah, he had a decent volley that was saved. I can't see he's playing well. And yeah, it's for me that they win 3-0 against Georgia, but I don't think that brings me confidence going into Ukraine next week. I'd like to hear why you think it's a bit more confident than I am.
I don't think that it's absolute. We're going to be winning the tournament now, not at all. But I'm much more persuaded that they can navigate themselves to this group, which I really didn't feel against Scotland. And there were lots of positives for me anyway, and I know that there were negatives too. I know that Martin de Boer's probably played one of the worst games of his career tonight. He was dreadful, and his spot surely must be up for grabs now. But I don't think it's the right time to change that. So I wonder what de Boer's going to do with that. Still don't understand why he plays 5 at the back and Darun in front of it. Doesn't make sense. Unless you're going to play Italy, for example, then maybe he's useful. But he showed tonight that he's not useful. He was giving the ball away countless times. I was writing down that he made a really stupid mistake or didn't track a run into the box for Georgia. And that's what he's there to do, to stop that. But positives, Dumfries was much better down that right wing. I think they found a way to make that work. And that was a position that many of us were critical of, thinking that Karsdorp should be playing there instead, for example. But they utilised him much more like PSV do when he plays a right back, getting forward and getting into the box. And I think that's what Frank de Boer sees in Dumfries. In terms of the formation itself, I think that de Boer actually made parts of it work. I can see why he wants to try it out. And people right now are thinking, God, you're crazy, you're stupid. I can't believe that you're thinking that. But I wonder whether against bigger teams that this might be the answer. I don't know. It was interesting to switch to a 4-3-3 at the end. I think that was just to see whether they could get more goals and create more chances towards the end of a match for chasing one. and they showed that they could create chances tonight much better. And I know that again it was against Georgia, but yeah, that passion from Weghorst was amazing to see. I think that goal is going to really put him in Frankfurt's thoughts now for starting each of the group games. And Memphis Depay is on fire. I think that he will rescue games in this tournament. I think he himself, if I could clone any player to have 11 players of the same player on the pitch, I'd choose Memphis Depay.
Yeah, I think that, again, looking at the positives, yeah, Weghorst, I mean, he's the player that you want in the squad. He's the one that is, that passion is what you want to see when you, and it's great to see that De Boer has decided on him over Luuk de Jong, it seems, at the moment. That's 2 games in a row that Weghorst has started, and that seems to indicate that De Boer realises that he's the better choice for this formation if he does go with 5-3-2, not Luuk de Jong, so that's good. And I agree that Dumfries had a better game. You know, he won the penalty from bursting into the box. He needs to show more. Again, Wijndal on the other side still needs to show a bit more. And whether eventually they put Daley Blind there instead, because Wijndal, his distribution is just not good enough against Scotland. It's every single time he got into an attacking position, he turned and passed it backwards.
Yeah.
He seems to be totally afraid to run at players. I highly recommend listening to the BBC's Football Daily podcast. There's one this week where they spoke to Jetro Willems, and Jetro Willems was talking about how he got into the Netherlands squad and everyone just told him, pick up the ball and dribble forward. Just take on players, just move forward. And nobody seems to be telling Wijndal that. Every single time he gets forward, it's go back, go back, go back. Don't force the ball in, don't do anything attacking wise, just turn and pass it back. And that's just not good enough in this formation when you're trying to utilise the wings for win-back play. And you have somebody like Weghorst in the box. It's just not good enough. And I think defensively, I've seen a lot of comments here that it looked stronger when Daley Blind went off. And yeah, it did, I think. But you need Daley Blind's distribution in there. If it's in 5-3-2, I think if you're going to play 5-3-2 with Blind, then you don't play De Roon. You play a more advanced midfielder in there. You play Davy Klaassen, Gravenberch, or even Koopmeiners, because then Daley Blind can step into the midfield and then have a bit more distribution in there. And going forward, that's what needs to work. I think if anything, I hope De Boer's watched today's game and went, right, De Roon's not the answer, and we need to do something about left back and work with Wijndal. I think if he does those 2 things, then I'll be a bit happier going into the tournament. But if he lines up in the same formation as he did today, maybe with De Ligt instead of Blind, or Timber, actually, sorry, then I'd be a bit worried against Ukraine. But if he takes this formation and goes, right, something's not working here, De Roon out, maybe David Klaassen in against Ukraine, then yeah, I'd be a bit happier to see how that works. But I think, again, it's just, there's so much more question marks around the squad at the moment. But yeah, for me, it still looks better when it's 4-3-3. Against Scotland, it looked better against 4-3-3 when Berghuis came on. And then today as well, it just looks more threatening and more tight at the back when you play 4-3-3.
I know what you mean. The 4-3-3 is what they're used to, and when they go into that formation, they just seem to be able to put much more intensity on the other opposition. But I don't think you can expect them to play that for 90 minutes. I think the 5 at the backs is working to stretch the play. It's working to have 2 strikers in the middle. But yes, again, I talked about De Roon about how he had a pretty poor performance. Wijndal too wasn't great. And like you said, he needs to dribble more down that left-hand side. And the thing that he's not got, which he does have at RZ, is he'll have a winger running on the outside of him, or so then Wijndal can either go to either overlap the winger or they overlap him and he can play that pass into them. But on the left wing at the moment, it's just him. There's no one to help him out. All he has is an option. He's either passing it back or passing it inside to Frenkie de Jong, who tends to either pass it back to him or move the play to the side. So then it's pretty pointless. So then it makes you think, why not play someone like Blint there, for example, who's got distribution at least. Wijndal doesn't have that long pass on him. But Wijndal has a pace, so either we need to find a way to use it or he's got to go. The Georgian defence kept just showing him inside, and that's all he could do then. He just kept trying to pass it inside because he wasn't taking the defender on. So yeah, I agree with you that Wijndal and De Roon needs to change. But it's interesting to hear your opinion on the formation. and I now need to bring in some of these comments. We've been talking for 10 minutes and we have not read any of them in yet. So let's bring some of them up. So thank you very much for being commenting live or after we've been doing this, letting us know your thoughts on the game. One here saying that leaving Memphis on the pitch for 70 minutes against today was crazy. It's good to get him some fluency, I suppose. But yeah, it's good to protect him, I guess. That Vindal is not looking comfortable at left wing back. Blind might be better. That's what we're just saying. And this guy thinks that Patrick Van Aanholt actually might be better on the left hand side. This fella not happy with Jerome. Thanks for comment, Timon. Wants to go 4-2-3-1, a bit like England are lining up for the tournament. Although I watched England at the same time and they were pretty lackluster again. So, you know, friendlies, you just don't get the best performance out of your players, do you? And that's really important to remember. And Michael's asking whether Stekelenburg should be number one. Let's just pause there a second, Mike. I'll put up some more comments in a minute. Do you think that Stekelenburg's now a number one? Because I'm convinced that he might be better than Krul.
Yeah, I think Tim Krul's had his chances, and you can't say that he's looked anything but shaky when he comes into the Netherlands goal. He didn't convince me against Scotland. Yeah, the second goal he couldn't really do much about, but I think the first one, there's just something about Woe strikes just seem to always get past him. That doesn't seem to have that reach or the.
He doesn't reflexes.
Yeah,
it feels like he's too in, and he doesn't impose himself like Stekelenburg would, for example.
And you always seem, when he plays in goal, you always think that the opposition has a chance to score. And you have to look back at the Turkey game as well, when he's culpable at times as well. So I think that Stekelenburg deserves a chance. You know, it would have been Cillessen if Cillessen didn't get dropped for God knows why. But yeah, I think that Stekelenburg, for me, going into the tournament would be my choice to play and goal against Ukraine. He just seems a bit more secure at the moment.
Yeah, he's 81 today, and it's a massive surprise that he's been able to do that with his form at Ajax this season. I can't hear about Timber. Timber's great. Don't agree with you, Stuart Blintz. On left side, also in the middle. Oh, so as in he should play in the left or should play in the middle or neither? I think Blint might be a good substitute for Jerome in midfield now that looking at his distribution is really important. Maybe don't put him in the centre of defence. And I know about Georgia here that they had 3 balls that ripped them apart. Yeah, the amount of chances that they were able to create was staggering, and that really concerned me with, again, this 5-3-2 and a Derone in midfield. Why were they able to create so many chances? Was it because Derone was so off it today, or was it the formation that was maybe the issue? Because we saw the same against Scotland when they scored their goals.
Yeah, I mean, this is what baffles me about the 5-3-2 and 2 defensive midfielders is that there's no defensive security. Scotland should have scored more than 2 goals against Netherlands in midweek. And today, Georgia should have scored at least 1. So there's no point in playing 5-3-2 with 2 defensive midfielders if your defence isn't even secure.
Yeah.
So for me, in that instance, Durin's not doing his job, so he needs to look at changing it up. And whether it is a case of swapping in a Koopmeiners or just an even more advanced one midfielder, because none of those 3 have played advanced roles this season. Wijnaldum doesn't play advanced at Liverpool. De Jong doesn't play advanced most of the time at Barcelona, unless you play him at points on the bit further forward like Koeman did some of the season. And then you've got Durin who just sits in front of the back 4 but offers absolutely no protection whatsoever. So you've got to change it. If Georgia are getting through so easily when you've got that many defensive players on the pitch, then something needs to change. And either it goes to 4-3-3 or he decides to change Durin.
Why not put Frankie de Jong there? Because at the minute it's like wearing a plastic bag against a baseball bat. I don't understand why he's there if he's going to play so poorly. And Frankie de Jong's got this creativity from deep. I'm not convinced that he's as effective push further forward, which De Boer's doing. Did de Jong have an off night to you as well, or do you think that it's positioning? What was it about him that maybe he's not having a good performance? I mean, just to add a little bit more, he's actually played the 3rd most amount of games in Europe's top 5 leagues this season. And he lost the ball 11 times today. And he's only ever lost the ball more times on 1 more occasion for the Netherlands. And he didn't play the full 90 today.
Yeah, I think what you can say is that the players just aren't used to this formation. It's going to take some time for them to get used to it, and the midfield is what seems to be struggling at the moment, and they can't seem to get their head around what they're supposed to be doing. And that's up to the board to change it within the next week to work with the players to make them more secure and more effective on the ball, because the past 2 games we've seen nothing of Wijnaldum either. So there's something wrong with this midfield where it seems to be bypassing the midfield. You see more of Memphis, and you see Weghorst more today, and Malen was lively in the second half. But you don't talk about midfield at all in this formation. You don't seem to be talking about any of them in a positive light anyway. So something needs to change there, because if you can bypass the midfield so easily in a 5-3-2 and hurt the defence, then something's going wrong. And if you're not utilising the strength that you have, which is Frankie de Jong, then the formation should be built around him. You know, we don't have Virgil van Dijk at the moment, and you didn't have De Ligt today. So you got to build around your strongest players, and the strongest players for me are Frankie and Memphis. So whatever formation suits them to having the ball most of the time is the one that they should play in.
Okay. I still feel as though this formation can work if De Boer gets it right, but I just wonder why he's chosen to develop it now so soon before the tournament. I guess that's what the problem lies. Where the problem lies, it's not the fact that it's a formation itself. I suppose it's doing it with such short notice. But the improvement is so great between the Scotland match and this one, considering how little they've played with it. But maybe in a week's time they'll be even better with it. Who knows? Just say, if you're watching this and you're enjoying it, do hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the like before you go, and subscribe if you're new to Football-Oranje. Let's get some more comments on. And another one about Weghorst here. Excellent finish from him tonight. It's a classy finish. And Frankie was playing close to penalty area. Jack actually thinks that he played well tonight, Frankie, in that position. Another positive comment about Weghorst there. Lots of them coming down here. Yeah, one from Frank here saying Cope minus Derone. Don't know if it's quite as simple as that. I think now that it's too late for a tournament to expect that. Ake much better than the pathetically slow Daily Blind. Yeah, lots of positivity about Weghorst today. Good to see. And again, another Ake looked really good for me. A guy who's played only 4 times his club in 2021. Another comment about Vindal. Can't believe he had the audacity to come out and proudly state he's the best left back in the country. But he was. I think it's just the system doesn't work for him when it's 5 at the back. One at Lively. No Van der Beek. Another one about Van der Beek. So I'm not putting everyone's comments on, but just to get some different things out that we have not talked about already. Berghuis had an impact from the bench.
I think he's done that in the past 2 games, to be fair. Berghuis was probably the one that changed it towards the end against Scotland as well.
Comment from Moment of Truth. Back to Kennenberg. Yeah. I think people are also having a good conversation in the comments. So I'm glad to see that everyone's talking about the national team in there. And one here about De Vrij, De Ligt, good enough to play only 2 centre-backs, so don't need to have the 3. Do you think that it could work? And second question, do you think Frank de Boer would do it if he kept the 5 at the back and had De Vrij, De Ligt, and had like a ball-playing centre-back in the middle who pushed on a little bit more, such as maybe putting De Bruyne in there, or Frankie, because he's played there before, or maybe even Daily Blind?
Yeah, I thought about this. If he's got to play 5-3-2, why doesn't he play possibly Frankie in the middle? Just a bit like what we've seen from Vitesse this season, where they put Bazour in there, and Bazour doesn't really get involved in defensive areas much, and he's more of a ball carrier from the back of defence forward, and that could work with Frankie. The issue for me is that De Boer is going to want to put Daily Blind in his 11 somehow. He's going to fit him in there somewhere. He's not going to drop him just because he's got to play Vindal at left back. So he's going to put Daily Blind somewhere in either defence of a 5-3-2 or the midfield in place of Darun, because he's not going to leave Daily Blind out at all. I can see that happening now. Blind's got to play somewhere. And for me, maybe at the back of a 5 is the best place for him. But if you do play him there, you can't play De Roon. It's blindingly obvious to me that if they're going to play 5-3-2, they need to have a more advanced midfielder in there. They've got to play either Klaassen, Gravenberg, somebody like that. This is going to, or even Van de Beek in there. Somebody that's just going to get forward more, because it seems so obvious to me. But we'll see what De Boer does next week. I can see the way it's coming. Why these managers like Blind, I just don't see it. Well, it's because of his distribution and his play on the ball, and he can do things on the ball that some Netherlands players can't. You know, we saw it during the last World Cup where that fantastic ball to Van Persie, that was Daley Blind that did that. So he has that capability on the ball. And you need to remember that Daley Blind's not played for months, and this was his first game for months. He might have been a bit rusty tonight, but if Daley Blind's on good form, he's an asset to his Netherlands side with what he can do on the ball.
I'm absolutely in agreement with you there. I think he deserves a starting spot, but they just need to find the right role for him and get him fit. He, within the first 30 seconds, was twisting and turning with the ball to try and set an attack away after George put him under early pressure. That shows you the kind of thing he can do. The thing that wasn't so good from him was when Georgia kept playing balls in between him and Vindal, and it basically showed up the lack of pace that he's got, and also the formation problems too. That he needs to obviously work on that. Perhaps it's just fitness for him. The fact that he's not played in so long, like you said. Let's go through a few more comments and a couple about Wijnaldum here. But good, just get your thoughts on. Do you feel like Wijnaldum doesn't offer anything at number 10? Maybe drop him back to number 8 or replace him with a better creative midfielder. Anyone but Klaassen. And another one here saying that Wijnaldum's been poor for the last few matches. He set the goal, didn't he, against Scotland? And I didn't think he played that badly tonight at all. First half, he was quite good.
I think you just expect more from Wijnaldum, because especially when he played under Koeman, he was always a key player. When Netherlands were playing well, he was always scoring goals. He's always active. I think that we've not seen the best of him in the past 2 matches. Granted, against Scotland, he was only on the pitch for half an hour, and he did get an assist. I don't think he was at his best tonight, and he's a player that we know gets criticised a lot at club level. He's one of the first names on Jurgen Klopp's team sheet because of his work rate and the way he shields the ball. And he is crucial for Netherlands. He's gone into the tournament as captain, even though I've seen some reports that Wijnaldum himself doesn't really want to be captain. He would rather not be there. And he was putting forward possibly, sorry, that was my cat just walking past the screen there, that he was saying that Strootman should have been in there to be captain because he didn't see himself in that role. But he is one of the first names on the team sheet. I think that maybe utilising him in a deeper role next to Frankie to have a more advanced midfielder is the way. Take out De Roon, put in Klaassen or Van de Beek, and let Wijnaldum play the role that he's been playing all season. Makes sense to me going into the tournament. Have him next to Frankie in the midfield. Play either Klaassen or Van de Beek, or even Cody Gakpo can play an advanced midfield role. Which, I mean, I can't see happening. I mean, Gakpo can't spot. Yeah, so I can't see that happening. But yeah, I can see somebody like even Berghaus or even Memphis as well. They can all play at a 10. So he has options to play there. But yeah, Wijnaldum playing a bit deeper would make sense to me.
Yeah, there's things you can do with that midfield, and I think it's just going to be too late for Frank de Boer to even think about it now. And given how stubborn he is anyway, he'll try and persist with what he's creating. And maybe that's the next step for him to work on. That tonight it's a midfield at how they can offer protection better to stop the opposition creating so many chances, cutting out runs, for example. But also, how can they create chances better themselves rather than having to go wide all the time? There were some things that were promising with that, though. I think that was a comment I was going to put on about Frankie playing so well up on the edge of the area again. But there's a question about Timber. Is Timber really any good? Still somehow fit Blinden maybe instead of Timber. I thought it was another decent performance from Timber. Maybe not as good as his Scotland performance, but that might have been because there was very few decent performances against Scotland, and Timber was a standout therefore. But tonight, didn't really notice him as much. What did you think?
Yeah, he didn't stand out as much as he did against Scotland, but I wouldn't say he was bad. And I think it's just another decent performance from Timber. And you got to remember, this is only his second performance in a Netherlands shirt. So I think that the fact that he's doing all right, and you're not really noticing him. He's not making any mistakes. Puts him forward in a positive light, and I think that Timber is the centre backs that Netherlands fans can get really excited about, because I think he's going to be one of the future. And it's just a position that Netherlands are the strongest at the moment, is centre back. It's just producing quality centre back after quality centre back, and Timber seems to be the leading light of the next generation. I think tonight was just another example of a good performance, if not a standout one. He didn't have that many forward runs tonight as he did maybe against Scotland, but certainly not a bad one in my eyes.
But Statham is still thinking that Wijnaldum had a bad performance tonight, and he'd replace him at Berghuis as number 10. But then I had a comment back straight away saying that Berghuis at 10. Meanwhile, Frank's having doubts. He wants Van Gaal back for 3 weeks. And Clay's thinks again 4-3-3 is better than 5-3-2. Looked much better with Gravenberch. Great to see him score his first goal tonight, as well as Weghorst, by the way. Leaving Donny out is just sad. Yeah, he's missing out again.
But this is the problem with the increased squad, is the fact that it's two players or 3 players miss out on every game. So we saw it tonight that the Gakpo wasn't in the squad, and De Ligt wasn't in the squad. Yeah. So there's going to be players disappointed every single game, and I've got to wonder now that, and I've seen a question about Gakpo as well, the fact that why put him in the squad to not play him in a game like this, or the game against Scotland, or even include him in the squad? What game is he going to get included in the squad between now and the end of the Euros? What game is Frank de Boer going to be, all right, now it's time for him to come into the squad? And the fact that he missed out on the under-21s, that they got knocked out against Germany, when Gakpo could have had such a big impact in that game. So it's just a strange decision. It's good to have him in the squad and learn and have that experience, but taking him away from under-21s and then just not giving him a chance, neither friendlies, just seems a bit strange.
He might still have his chance if there's injuries. The squad's got to be bigger for this reason. We'll wait and see. I was just going to say about I've lost train of thought. I'll put a couple more comments on there. We've pretty much caught up with all of them now, but there's a couple to do with formation, and agreeing with you, Mike. Here's a good one for us to talk about. A serious question: will De Boer be sacked after the Euros if we're out at the round of 16?
Yeah,
I think it's without a doubt. If he's out, yeah. If it's a group stage, yeah. Round of 16, probably, yeah. How about quarterfinals? What if they stumble their way through, having got through the group? They beat, for example, Sweden last 16. They go tumbling out in the last 8. Does that mean he keeps his job or not? I guess it's hard to say, isn't it? But what do you think?
I think at the moment you got to look at it, and this hasn't been smooth running. Like, De Boer's caused issues for himself in the last few weeks. Just the way he's dealt with dropping the players from the squad, then saying that he phoned them, then it turned out he didn't phone them, and then him saying, "Oh, yeah, I didn't," in the end phone them. Forgetting players' names, with a Quincy Promise, Quincy Menig one last week, which was funny, and getting Cillessen, dropping him. And it seems like Cillessen has some very harsh words to say about somebody that he's not saying at the moment, and the Van de Beek mix-up, the insistence on this formation, and even just the fact that he's had 11 games in charge right now and he's not convinced in any of them. So if the KNVB are looking at all this, and then everyone's stumbled through the tournament and getting knocked out, then of course De Boer is gonna go. But it depends on who's available at that time. Do the KNVB think they have a better option somewhere than just stumbling on De Boer? Because as we constantly say on this podcast, the KNVB don't have a great track record of making good decisions. So let's wait and see. But I think if Netherlands have a tournament where they don't get to at least the quarterfinals, then yeah, De Boer's gone. Just because of the build-up, because of the World Cup qualifying loss against Turkey, and if they don't impress in this tournament, then yeah, the pressure on De Boer will be huge.
We can still be optimistic though, and I think the development between the Scotland match and this Georgia match shows that De Boer does learn. I think that whilst he's quite stuck in his ways a lot of things, it was interesting to hear that he talked to his players about what formation they should do, who should play where. Interesting to hear that he does change things around, and you could see that he's trying to make things work. The players, though, still seem unaffected by it all, and they still want to play really well together. A few people still seem to think now that they're not playing for the manager and there's a bad atmosphere around the team. I don't see that. I don't feel that. But yes, you can't mistake that they don't agree with De Boer on some things. You can hear it in the media, but they're not letting that interfere with their tournament. They know how much this means to themselves, but also the fans. And that's really good to see from the national team, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that there's passion amongst the players definitely going into this tournament. And you got to hope that regardless of the coach, that the players are the ones that go out there and they decide what happens on the field. So if the players play to their strength, then regardless of the fact that De Boer's in charge, it should be okay. And I think you've got to look at the players that Netherlands have and the passion that Weghorst showed today. You know, whatever Memphis does in the Netherlands shirt, what a joy it is to have him in his national team at the moment. Scoring goals, getting assists. I mean, if they didn't have Memphis, then yeah, Netherlands would be looking at a group stage exit at the moment because they've got nothing else. Because Memphis is the creator, the scorer, everything for this national team at the moment. And if he has a bad game, then the Netherlands have a bad game. It's simple as that. So there is optimism going into the tournament just because of the group that Netherlands have. I think that Ukraine is, for me, the biggest test. They've got to get through that game. I think if they win that one, first off, confidence will grow. So that first game is so crucial. Put a good performance in there, get a win, set a marker, and then build on that. The first game is huge for me.
If you want to see us do more things like this, by the way, and you want to see us do previews before the games, do hit the like button and we'll know that you want to see these kind of things. We're mulling at the moment whether we do them or not. Definitely doing post-match reactions to each of the group games. But let us know if you want us to do some previews for them as well. We've got some good guests that will come on to each one. And the final thing I kind of want to get from you, Mike, and if you're watching live and you're watching afterwards, do comment your thoughts on this. We've had lots of what we'd like to see. For example, we would like to see a 4-3-3 or something like that. Certain players coming in his team. But what do you think is realistic to change between now and Ukraine? What tweak would you make? Perhaps if you weren't De Boer, but what little change would you make? Maybe it's a player that you put there instead. For example, I think mine would be putting Frank de Jong there instead of Daron and having an extra, more attacking-minded midfielder in Frankie's place, someone that could link up better with Vindal. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, that's, for me, is the one glaring issue in this whole 11 is Martin Daron. And I think it became obvious against Scotland. I mean, for me, it's been obvious for years that when you play against smaller opposition, smaller countries, Daron is the one that stands out as being not good enough for this national team. And you saw against Scotland, you saw again tonight, that he has a place against stronger nations, not in this kind of game against a team like Georgia, not against Ukraine, not against Austria, not against North Macedonia. You got to have someone that can do more on the ball and get forward more in that midfield. Let Frankie be the deep holding midfielder. Let Wijnaldum play at 8 and then play at 10. Play Van de Beek, play Klaassen, something that's going to help with the attack. So that would be the one immediate change that I would make between now and Ukraine.
And someone still thinks that they can start Frank de Boer before it's too late, before the first match. Not likely, I'm afraid. And I think that the progress made today shows that it's not too far away from where we want to see them. I think that even a draw against Ukraine is not a bad way to start. I don't think you can look too negatively upon that. Obviously, it depends on what performance they put out. If it's a drab 0-0, then yeah. But if they can get a draw or a win against Ukraine, then it's all about beating Austria and North Macedonia. Their expectation will rise, but they should be beating these two teams. North Macedonia look like they're going to have an exciting tournament, but the Netherlands should beat them. Austria are at an all-time low. So again, the Netherlands need to beat them. I wonder if there's time for one more question. I did see one. Yeah, and we've had the answers a few times. I've got to say, well, more than a few times. How far do you think Netherlands get in this tournament? Given you've seen the Scotland game, you've seen this one, what's your gut instinct telling you?
I still look at the quarterfinals as being where it starts to get tricky for Netherlands. Again, it all depends on who finishes third in the groups, because again, Netherlands could get an absolute horror of a second round tie against Portugal, Germany, and France if they get unlucky, and then it could end then. But if they get a decent second round draw, if they finish top of this group, get a decent second round draw, quarterfinals is definitely achievable. And then in a quarterfinal, anything can happen. I think. I mean, even looking back at the last Euros, you had Iceland getting far, you had Wales getting far, you had England getting far, and they're not very good. So if you get to that stage of the tournament, then anything can happen. So I'd say that at least quarterfinals would be in my head. Then who knows, the semi, and then anything can happen. But anything less than a quarterfinal, and I think it's been an absolute horror tournament.
That's fair enough. I agree with that too. The fact that they should get through this group, no doubt about that. But they should be also getting to that last 16 tie. There aren't many teams that can come up against that would be a massively tough opponent, really, in that last 16 tie. Then the quarterfinals is where it gets very interesting. See what this team and De Boer are made of if they can get there. But let's get there first, because it's a long way to get there, isn't it?
But then again, whenever I do one of these predictors, Netherlands come up against Turkey in the quarterfinal. So
yeah, this seems to happen. This might well occur if it happens.
That's if Turkey finish second in their group, and it always seems to be that in my predictions that Netherlands get an okay second round tie, and then it's Turkey in the quarterfinal. So if it is that again, then semi-final could be actual on the cards if Netherlands can put a better performance in, then they get the World Cup qualifier. But I think having the first 3 group games all at home in Amsterdam in front of a Dutch crowd that'll get allowed in is huge. So that's just an advantage in itself.
It is.
Having some home fans in there, so you got to look at it as a positive. So you've got to look at getting out of the group top, and then we'll see after that. It all just depends. Luck of the draw.
That's right. Now, Mike, I think it's time to go. But is there anything you'd like to plug, I guess, before we head off?
No, just keep a look on the website. We are steamrolling towards 20,000 followers on Twitter, so it's going to be a big tournament for Football-Oranje. So just keep up looking at the website, sharing our content, and let's just hope that Netherlands have a great tournament, and everything that's coming out from us is all rosy towards actually winning the tournament. So let's just get behind the team and see what happens.
And of course, you can follow us both on Twitter. You can see our handles somewhere either side of us. And we're publishing stuff like articles. There's podcasts coming out all the time. So do keep your eyes open for those. The Euros is coming up, and we're definitely here for you at Football-Oranje. So yeah. And I had a comment here saying that they appreciate us. Well, we appreciate you more, because we wouldn't do this if you weren't here watching. Pointless. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. And if you haven't already, please do press like. And we'll have a little chat, Mike and I, now, and we'll see if we can get some previews out for you before the games. But definitely stick around for the post-match reactions after each of the group games. There'll be lots on footbaloranje.com for you to read as well. So again, keep your eyes open and keep following what we do at Football-Oranje as we go into this tournament. And it's really hotting up, isn't it? Only 7 days to go. Thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Bye.
Bye.